stores.
Oh, that's all right. They didn't miss anything, I don't think.
Oh, 506, okay.
Have we explored all options for other grants or other sources of funding? Is there anything we can come on board with?
We've looked at USDA, and they won't, right, they wouldn't. I
We
don't
talked
think
about
they would,
USDA, it was
I mean, we could
the,
reach out to them,
yeah,
but,
as part of the
It's
facility
just-
plan, we
yeah, we looked at
we
all the
looked at all the different funding methods, and Clean Water Fund was the best one. We are gonna reach out to Focus on Energy. It's not gonna be a huge number by any means, but it should help pay for lights and, you know, VFDs and stuff like that.
And Clean Water Fund would give us also some matching, if Focus on Energy gives us money, then Clean Water Fund will give us a little bit more PF as well.
Yeah. And then Clean Water Fund also with this
Yeah.
funding changes went from, what was our max was
750,000 plus a million, so 1.75.
yeah.
And
So-
now it's 3 million, so we've almost doubled the PF, which is why the rates have kind of stayed a little bit lower than what we initially, like even with the higher bid coming in, that additional principal forgiveness really is helping out.
bid came in 30% higher than what we had.
And we're hearing that across the board for treatment plants or water system upgrades, they're 20 to 30% above estimates.
But you're probably only talking 200 to 500,000. You're probably gonna get out of Focus. If that.
Oh yeah, it's
Yeah,
not
yeah,
gonna be
it's-
it's not
it's-
gonna be a big
Yeah.
number.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's small.
And provided that they're not requiring you to bump up what's already figured in this bid. You know, that you gotta go to a higher tier
Oh.
equipment or something like that, so then you're right back to almost a wash, you know.
To get more.
Yeah, a lot of times, you
They
know,
will
what
require
we might have figured might not be
Oh
be
yeah.
eligible for their funding, you know, you might have to step it up a notch or two, you know, depending upon what was figured in this stuff.
Well, one nice thing is that we can give them exact model numbers and everything that's in the design.
Yep.
Versus like in facility planning where we're like, oh, it's a boiler,
Yeah,
right? So we can tell them the efficiency and all that stuff,
Right.
right? So it's like you're saying, it's not going to be
huge number.
yeah, but it's something. So
Anything is better than nothing.
so what are your thoughts on the 20 to 30 year, 20 versus 30 year?
It's only gonna save $3
You know,
a
I'm
month.
I'm on the 20 personally, you know where I'm at.
Well, the 20 to 30 saves $8 a month.
$8 a month.
Yeah.
Unless you're me, and then it's less.
Yeah, 'cause it's 1250, 950.
Maybe it'll take an extra show.
So you stretch it out to 25, you're probably talking about a $4
Water.
savings.
Probably.
Makes a lot of noise, but it doesn't use much water.
I don't like paying money on interest, you know, there's no
Right,
two ways about
yeah.
that. Makes me ill that for 10 years, $200,000 could have been put towards something else other than borrowing capital,
Yeah.
borrowing for
Yeah,
capital.
I'm right there with you.
Yeah, the 20 years sounds better to me than going out farther.
Okay. Alright.
I'm still here.
I sure would have liked to see Sentient pay their share up front.
What is it decided for sure that they're not?
That's pretty much what this said.
That's what the
what
agreement
they're-
states,
that's-
yeah.
Yeah,
this
that's
new
about
one
this one
comes
that they X'd out.
Yeah, originally it said they were gonna pay a lump sum, and now it says they're gonna pay it prorated monthly. amount for the life of the loan.
Right, I understand that, but we all agreed that that's okay and we're going along with that, I guess that's my
Well, we
question.
gave them the choice before we gave them the choice.
Okay.
I don't know why they bothered Xing it out, because it said they could do it either way.
Well, I think we originally had it that it was gonna be monthly, and then they suggested,
Yeah.
what if they wanted to bring it up?
Yeah.
And then, but we left the wording in that said either
So
way.
then- Right, so then in our
And then, so
last
then
version
this,
of the
the
contract, we gave
lump
the
sum,
option.
they totally eliminated.
Right,
Because
but
we
they
thought it
left
would
the
be
cap in
beneficial.
there, which was interesting.
Yeah,
Because now the cap shouldn't really apply because that was only for the lump sum situation.
No,
Yeah.
we can X out the lumps, we can X out the maximum.
Yeah, the max, I think we should,
I would,
but yeah, we can talk about that.
I would X out the max.
Yeah.
I would just X that part out.
Lori, did you print off extra copies then?
It's in your book.
Oh, it's in the book?
Yep, it's in the
Yeah,
book
it's in the
behind
book.
the pack
The
one.
one that they Xed out. I would X out the maximum out of pocket.
I was trying to read it on my laptop at home there.
Yeah, I was trying to read it on my phone and that wasn't
See,
working
what?
either.
Well, it's printed.
It does say that they can prepay
It
It
can
does,
prepay,
yes.
yeah.
if they want to.
But
During
I would-
the course
I would-
of-
I would X out that part about the maximum amount.
Yeah.
5.1?
Yeah, I
Yep.
would mix that out.
Yeah.
I would just get rid of that.
And the other thing that they did in that paragraph that concerned me a little bit is they changed just total costs to total construction costs. And so again, to me, they should be, I mean, if they're getting on board with this, they should be paying all the budget, like
Yeah,
all the
it's
things
gotta
in the
be all the
budget,
costs.
not just
Yeah, it's
construction.
gotta be all-
Construction, they should pay for part of the design, right? The
Gotta be
invoice
all-
that you sent,
Yeah.
so.
So whether they wanna, pay for it as part of the loan, which is kind of the way I have it right now, or if they wanna pay it up front and then we take that, that chunk gets taken out of the loan. Kind of what's appearing to happen. They're not paying it, so they'll pay for it later. So,
Yeah.
and then the other thing on that same bullet too is they asked that their first installment not be until the system is kind of up and running. Well, unfortunately, that's not how Clean Water Fund works. You guys are gonna have to start making payments, interest payments, and so they should have to, and your users are gonna have to increase their rates,
Oh, yeah.
before we close on the loan, so they should have to start making their payments as well.
Yeah.
So,
As
so
soon
that
as we have
we
to
would
start
just,
paying on the loan, they should have to start paying.
yeah. So probably in April, they should be having to make, it won't be as big of a payment as like once the full loan gets going, but they should have to be paying,
We sent them one bill already, they haven't paid it, I
Yeah.
don't believe.
Nope.
right. The way that I have it here is they would be paying it through the loan, essentially, like I have it in the budget that they, the full amount is in here in the budget, this 822,500 is the design stuff, so that's in our budget, and that's again part of the loan, so if they're paying their 33% of the loan, they're paying that bill that way. But,
What did we pay for already on the one we got a bill from, and we billed them for part 34.4?
That was all
was
the
Design.
design.
That
they
was
haven't
for
paid
design.
it, they haven't paid it yet, so.
We billed them for 34% of the
Did we pay
amount
it?
that
No.
we've been, oh, we've been paying.
We paid it. That's
Yeah, you
already
guys have been
paid.
paying it out of the interim, you have that interim account, interim loan, and so that's, so you're acquiring interest on that interim loan, so it's Clean Water Fund will pay that off. We can get everything done by May 1st.
But we're covering their share as well, right?
Correct.
Yeah.
Right, but
So-
it'll be part of the loan. It'll be part of the loan, so once they once they make payments on the loan, they're essentially contributing then to paying that off.
Well, they need a special invitation or what? We've sent them a bill and how long ago was this now?
It's because they don't have an agreement signed.
Couple months.
We should send them a
Month and a
pen.
half.
Yeah, well, tack interest on their interest.
File a lien against them.
Well, once again, we're kind of waiting for them to sign a contract.
Well, they're waiting on us to give them feedback on their red lines.
On their
So-
redacted.
Yep.
So Andy reviewed it.
Mhm.
We have comments that we're gonna hit send on tomorrow morning.
Yep. But it's kind of what I was just talking about, those kind of three things with the max and stuff. And then we kind of agree with what Andy was saying about some of the stuff that they pulled out. We think should probably stay in there. I think it was item 8 and 9.
Paragraph 7, he said should stay in,
Yeah.
and removing our 8 and 9 is what he said.
Yeah.
Leave paragraph 7 alone, and the only thing with paragraph 7, I would get rid of that part about the maximum.
So they eliminated paragraphs 8 and 9?
No.
Yeah. From the original contract. So I don't know if you guys actually even see 8 and 9 on yours.
Yeah, it's
The one that Lori sent us?
yeah, that's kind of on this page right here, 8 and 9.
Like they
Yeah,
just,
it's
it would be
crossed
all
out,
lines.
crossed
Yeah,
in,
it would be all
track
lines
changes.
because they took it out.
A part of 8, they left part of 8 there,
Okay.
just a very part,
Very first
small part of it. And they X'd out the bonding part, basically.
I'm not sure I would agree with getting rid of paragraph 9, if you guys can still see that. It kind of protects yourself in case we have to do something in the future, that they would still be held accountable for that portion.
Yeah.
So,
And the attorney had said, I think he had commented on that too.
Yeah,
right?
he said leaving that in.
Mhm.
Because the DNR, if the
Because of the
DNR comes
DNR.
back and says you guys have to do something because your
Right.
permit, Sensi should be responsible for that portion too.
and that's my biggest concern, is because certainly in the next 20 years, the DNR is gonna do something to us. So I don't wanna have to give them their full capacity reservation if we're only
Yeah, well,
allotted half as much as we're
Well,
currently
that's,
allotted.
well, then we could, we could actually do this number 2 that he wrote in his email and put in there somewhere, in the event DNR
Right.
reduces discharge limits for then Sensing's discharge shall be similarly reduced on a pro rata basis.
Right,
We
and
just need to,
that's-
we need to put that.
Right,
Number
but-
2 on in his email here, we need to add that.
Is the DNR ever gonna reduce our limits? I mean, I find that hard,
You're thinking the opposite.
isn't that what that says though?
Reduce, meaning make lower.
To make it
Oh.
harder to treat.
More
Oh.
Yeah,
stringent.
more stringent,
Okay.
more chemical, more.
Alex, wasn't the one other thing we discussed, didn't we read in here something where they had mentioned about that if they would go out of business, that they wouldn't be
Right,
Yeah, well,
responsible for,
bonding portion,
that's that part?
Yeah.
paragraph 8.
I don't know. If we were to do that ourselves, how much would that cost?
If you guys were to bond it? I don't know if you can, because it's more them
Or-
having
or
to
we buy,
bond.
or we buy an insurance policy that, or if we buy
they-
some sort of insurance policy that if they somehow bail on us, we're
Doesn't make
covered.
you recover.
I don't know, I guess I could check with bond counsel and see if they know of something. I'm not familiar with that.
Yeah, I'm just saying that would be something that we could, and then we would
Right,
throw it in with the
cover.
cost of everything else into this project and then basically bill them for it.
Mhm.
And contractor bonding is typically 5%, but that's kind of different.
Yeah.
We could ask.
I mean,
Yeah,
that's something that we should ask.
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah.
if-
Yeah.
if they're,
I can
if
check
they're
on that.
unwilling to do it, then, I
Right.
mean, we should check into the
Yeah, I
cost
mean, you guys-
of protecting
right.
ourselves.
Yeah, yeah.
And then we throw it in the cost of this and they pay it anyway, whether they like it or not.
Sure is nice, all this stuff could have been handled a year ago.
I mean, ultimately, we don't have to agree with anything they suggested.
No.
So, ultimately, we can say what we need and tell them to
Yeah.
shove it. Otherwise, not that you want to, but you have that option.
Now, the only thing I would change, I mean, we could send it back to them and just X, without the 5 point whatever million on there. Just say, oh, whatever the cost is, the cost is.
I guess another point I had noted in, what is paragraph 11.9, I think I have, is that
11.
the reserve.
I think that was just our paragraph 11.
Yeah,
It's
it's now
further
9.
agreed.
They're, because they eliminated some that's new, the new 9.
Oh, okay, right, so the new 9 is that, their right to the reserve capacity shall survive the termination of this agreement and shall be in effect for as long as the plant is in service. Is there, I mean, there's a finite lifespan to this equipment too, and are they gonna pay to replace 34% of these pumps when they go bad?
Yeah, I'd say if your aerators are after 20 years, you need to upsize them, because I guess it would,
So I just,
That's
I have a
part
hard
of that
time-
equipment replacement fund, and that
Right.
should be something like when their rates are reviewed in the future, then that should be increased to account for that.
I looked at that one, that their comment, A4, which I think it's 11 here, that where they require certain upgrades or modifications to the wastewater plant. If they want to, under a separate agreement.
right,
I mean, how long are we gonna wait for a separate agreement?
Yeah, I think that's just their way of saying, like, if there's a new project that comes up, they're gonna require a new agreement be created for that specific.
Well, the problem I see with that is haven't we been doing this for like 3 years and we still don't have all agreement?
Right,
You know what
right.
I'm saying?
But you can't predict what's gonna be in the future, you won't know, like, so it actually is beneficial to you guys in a way to create a new agreement if that ever happens again. Cause then you can reassess, like, all the different things that had to go into the 34% that we came up with. They'll, like, cause they may have to contribute more in the
yeah,
future.
maybe it's not 34%,
Right.
maybe it's 50%, because they're
Right.
discharging a ton of phosphorus or something.
Right, right. So, to me, it's actually beneficial to have a new agreement for each project.
So yeah, our 34% is actually based on the flows and the loads that they're planning on sending.
For this particular project.
well, one more thing, towards the beginning, paragraph 5, I believe. Just, they added, in no case will there be less than their reserve capacity. It's a pretty strong statement to say, in no case will we give you less than your reserve capacity.
I think unless, and then I think that's where you put in this,
That's where you have to add in.
that number 2,
Number
and
two.
except for in the case of,
Right, that's,
you add the number 2 to that,
that's where I kinda need.
unless the DNR says, yeah, that's where you add that, that's where you'd add that number 2 is right there, and,
Pretty against
and
adding a
number
contract
5.
that's in no case can we change it.
yeah, well, the problem is we can change it if the
You
DNR says,
foresee that?
I mean, yeah, so we
Yeah,
need
but
to add,
then
you
that's-
need to add that to number
That's
2.
paragraph 9 that they got rid of, saying we can't change it, basically.
Yeah, well,
So
but
it's-
we
they're
need to
trying
put in
to-
there that if the DNR tells us we're changing it, it's getting changed.
That's what we need.
Yeah, we
Yeah.
need that in there.
They were just trying, I mean, their lawyers are good lawyers, they're trying to
I'm
cover the
gonna
bases.
tie your hands.
Yeah, exactly, and it's, we
I
need,
mean, would
a
they
We
little
need
bit
to
of-
have that, we need to have number 2
Less,
put in there,
like,
wherever it
would-
needs to be put in.
You know, ever.
They should always be less than that. And then the only reason why it would be a problem is if Juneau like doubled, you know,
Right.
in people or something like that, and then you'd
They now
have to
don't
figure
have
out
that.
like, okay, now we're under capacity as a whole plant, why did that happen? Is it sentient or is it because the city grew, right? So that's part of our population projections is we did estimate, you know, some level of growth that the city would actually happen. And then there's a 10% unknown growth that we put in there as well that you have to as part of DNR. So I don't see it being an issue, but I agree with Alex, like it's,
It's hard, it's that hard language that, yeah.
yeah. So,
It might be worth asking the lawyer about that and just,
well, that's where point 2 came from. So,
just to give everybody a heads up, I have to leave like right at 7, so for kids and babysitter, but Nicole can end up
I can
staying,
stay.
so. Just give me a heads up if I'm like.
Hey, that's why I
Got
was
right.
late, so I hear you.
So I think the plan for the sensing agreement is to, what you guys are saying is to incorporate some of those changes. We'll get a final copy to Lori and Mac and Alex, and then send it back to them.
I mean, can we do this ASAP and give them like a hard line 1 week deadline to get back to us?
So that's the next thing is the schedule. So in order for your interim financing interest to be rolled into the Clean Water Fund, our deadline for the DNR is February 24th. And that's signed documents from the city and STOB and construction services and stuff like that. If we miss that deadline, then interest will have to be paid separately somehow.
Yeah, the utility will probably have to cover that interest payment.
And then our next major deadline is March 18th. So, because contractors, they're required to hold their bid number for 60 days. So after March 18th,
You're gonna wanna sign
We
it.
then
could
you pretty much have to rebid or
It's gonna go up.
Yeah, it's not gonna get cheaper.
Well, you go from the front of the line to the back of the line, so.
yeah, that's, we moved it all around, right, the bid opening, because contractors were saying you gotta get it in now, you know, if you put it back here, then this might happen, if it's too early, this might happen, so. So we'll get back our sentient comments tomorrow morning.
Tomorrow morning. To get that.
Yeah.
I guess, why don't we follow the lawyer's advice and not go with their paragraph 7 and don't remove 8 and 9?
Yeah, I think for sure that's, we agree with that as well. Yep, and then in that section 6, I think there's those couple changes that
It was the total project versus the construction costs, right? We definitely want to keep it as total project.
Yeah.
we're gonna take out the max that does not exceed 5 million thing, and then that first installment we have to look at. Yeah, I would recommend it probably be April of this year
Yeah.
that they start.
And make sure that's
Making
written
some
right in.
payments.
Yeah, when I talked to John Long, he said that they wanted the appendix A and B and C. And I thought, how can we do A when we don't have a contract with a contractor? They wanted the contract, whatever construction costs were. I mean, how can we give them that?
Well, we have the bid.
Well, we can't
have
now.
that bid.
We
Yeah.
can- well,
Yeah.
We can't now, yeah.
Yep, and Matt has how he calculated the 34%, which is what, one of their questions, which is appendix A, I think, right? Yeah, how that 34%, that would be appendix, or exhibit A. And then exhibit B, I could probably get that by maybe Thursday afternoon, possibly tomorrow, but it might not be till Thursday, because I need somebody to review it.
Is that the repayment schedule?
Yeah, the repayment schedule, that would be like what their monthly amount would be.
Until the end of next week to sign it.
So, yeah, I was gonna say, what happened to that if they don't do this? We can just shut their valve. Is that not happening then? You know what I'm saying? Can we do that to force their hand?
You don't have to.
You guys, yeah.
It's their only option.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm just saying, because at what point do we just say, okay, well, either you guys need to agree with something or, sorry.
Yeah.
You know, because this has been dragging on for how long already? I mean, we hate to have to do that, but at the same time, how long do we keep doing this?
So we change this back to what we want.
Mhm.
And what happens when they send back the same thing they already sent us back? Do we just agree, the next thing we come up with is the last we're gonna negotiate?
Well, this should
Well,
be the
there's no
last
way
thing
it's
you're gonna
gonna go by the
negotiate.
24th.
That's,
Or
we
whatever.
don't have time.
Right.
Yeah,
I mean, this, when it's
I
all
thought we
over,
were
it
done
should be-
negotiating before.
It should be stated that we're done negotiating.
This is the final terms, get on or get out.
Mhm.
we've been at this for 3 years now. Why in the heck why do this stuff now at the last? But I don't think we were ever negotiating with the guy that's supposed to sign this.
This was a real review of the agreement.
And it finally got down there for them to, He did tell me they wouldn't be signing they wouldn't be signing any contracts now. They're not signing any contracts with anybody now because they have to report to the stock exchange their earnings. And they enter into a contract that hits their earnings. So they would have to report that in there, so they wouldn't be signing before the end of the month.
Well, we can't do anything till we have it signed contract.
Yeah, I can talk to the DNR and see if we can push the date that we get the contract signed. I mean, they understand that you guys are working with this industry and that, so, I mean, I don't know if, a week is gonna matter if we can push it off a week or two, for them to get the documents. I mean, I think what they're concerned about is the budget, so if we can, commit to a budget, that's more of what they're concerned about. Cause that goes into all the underwriting, they need a number to put into all the loan documents, so they need time to do that, and that's why they're giving us this hard deadline. So, I can communicate with them what, that Sensian isn't gonna be able to commit till March, so.
So maybe we make all these changes, Mac, you sign it, walk it over there, talk to John Long and say this is our last review.
This
See
is
what-
it,
see
this
what- see what
is
he
our
says.
final.
Yeah.
But then after this date, we gotta shut you off.
And March
too.
1st, you gotta, we either get it March 1st
Well, I
or,
would say we gotta shut them off before March 1st, because otherwise they're not gonna take March 1st as a real deadline.
Well,
I mean, they got this, what date did you guys give them for this review?
Today.
The 6th today.
today.
Yeah, and was it Wednesday last week?
Wednesday.
Wednesday last week.
Yeah, so I mean, that's showing, again, I know that they've been a pain in the butt to work with, but
Yeah. it's very
I'm
minor.
hopeful, I guess I'm optimistic, so.
Well,
It's that
I can
thread.
give him a call
Yeah.
tomorrow again and say, hey, we're going to be we're rewriting it, and we will give you our final proposal. I'll bring it over. He was real happy when I went over and got it. I didn't recognize the place.
I'd really like to know where this was laying for the last 6 months.
Yeah.
They didn't have
I
it.
can't believe there's a law firm that would take paperwork and just push it on the back burner for.
I don't think they got it. I don't
So
think it
we
went
wrote
down.
we gave them a nasty note, which I guess we should have made the nasty note 6 months ago.
I think it
Well, I
went,
think the real number,
Years ago.
I think them, it going out for bid and it making it real really probably helped the situation as well. 'Cause I think before they were kinda like, well, they might do it, they might not, so why spend time on it if they're not gonna do it? And now you're doing it, so. Mhm. Do whatever you want to say.
So yeah, I gotta run soon, but so we'll get the sentient letter all up to speed, get it over to you guys. We'll work on the rates with the 20-year term.
Do you want us to kind of look at the equipment replacement fund? I mean, that's, I guess, Alex, kind of up to you if you want to futz with that a little bit. And we can show you kind of the numbers and,
Hate to short myself too, you know?
Cause you
Right.
don't wanna short
I mean,
that either, right? 'Cause
right
then
now
wanna
you
be-
have like, well, I think on the 2021 audit, it was like 1.2 million. Does that sound right?
Mhm.
I mean, you have 1.2 million in there. You're getting all this brand new equipment.
How much do you plan on having
Right.
to replace?
Right, really, I mean, it's showing that you really only need like 500,000 in there
How much
for the
are
next.
we required to by the DNR have?
It's looking at the equipment that you would be replacing, and a lot of it you already have. It's like the lift station pumps and all that kind of stuff. Do you have a spreadsheet? We have one from Alice from 2019. So again, we might want to look at that, and we could talk you through like what line items Matt is saying, like we're replacing these, so essentially that can come off, and we can look at what's going to be fully funded and what you need in there. We estimated to be about $500,000 is really what you would need in there to cover all of the stuff that,
That's not
isn't being replaced.
That isn't being replaced.
That isn't being replaced.
So we could lower it until that other clean water fund loan goes away.
Correct.
and then
Correct.
bring it back.
Yep.
So we
Yeah.
can go line by line through that spreadsheet. Some of it's old equipment
Right,
that,
some
that
of it
doesn't
we
apply at
don't
all
even
anymore.
have.
And some of it you might have replaced since 2019 and we didn't have that information, so.
Do you know what the interest rate on the existing clean water fund loan is?
On the 2008 one,
Yeah.
I don't know what it is. I could find it out for you and give it to you tomorrow.
So we're paying more on that than what we're borrowing the money for this. It only makes sense to,
I wish we could roll it in. We've asked to do that and they won't let us do that for whatever reason. I don't know why they won't let us, especially from the same borrower. I don't know why they wouldn't let us do it. but-
Out of curiosity, can we use the tower fund for that? Is that
Well,
tower
yeah.
fund just
Yeah.
earmarked for
I
anything?
suppose you could just refinance that every time that it
Right, yeah.
That's
Just
why
get a new
they-
loan
that's
and
why
just
they want to
refinance
do
it,
that.
yeah.
I don't know, was that,
The,
the tower fund, is that earmarked for anything specific?
earmarked
you're
towards
talking about
improvements
the
at
cell
the
tower?
treatment plant.
Yeah.
There's not that much money in there because we had used some of it for the
Water
painting of the
Water tower, yeah.
There's only like $70,000 or something in there.
Well, $70,000 would clear us of the other one, the other,
Oh,
That would-
that, for 1 year, it's 60,000 a year, like
It's
70,000 a
60,000.
year that you have to pay
For the next.
for the next 5
Yeah.
years.
But that 70,000 would knock a little off the 15 million.
But we're getting 100,000 a year on that tower fund, aren't we?
20,000.
20,000.
Yeah, it
It's-
keeps going up as.
it
remember,
goes up.
Start off at 20 and then it goes up by like 10,000.
Yeah, it had been 18,
It's like a,
something like that. Every
Increased
2 or 3 years
projection.
it goes up.
It goes up every other year? I think it is.
Every 2 or 3, I'm not sure.
I mean, the final year of the contract, they're supposed to pay us $1 million.
Could use that now.
So when do we need, so assuming that Sensient comes back soon, when do we need rates?
So
Figure it
probably
out and
March, at the
propose.
March meeting, we probably wanna really get those rates set, recommend it at the board meeting, and then have those in place for April. For your April billing, and then, all that stuff's in place for closing and, yeah. And again, that's assuming, like, we're not gonna take anything out of the project. I know that, I mean, that could still be on the table, but, I mean, again, I don't know if it makes sense to do that, to take anything out of the project.
Yeah, I met with Alex and Peggy and some of the other plant staff, and we talked about, okay, do we take the cover off, right? And then it was like, well, what about freezing, or how do we operate it in the winter at this point, you know, and so,
It was, you cut one thing and then you have 5 more problems that we engineered it to work, you know? So you cut one thing, you're just adding problems.
and then so the cover, for example, let's say you cut the cover, it's $300,000-$400,000, so that saves you $1 a month, you know, and
Right.
ultimately, you know, it's a bigger deal to them, right? And so, not saying $1 isn't a big deal to certain people, but
I think ultimately, our attitude on what needs to be in the project kind of depends on your attitudes for how we're gonna go from here. You know, if we're expected to not spend any money on capital improvements in the next 10 years, I can't cut anything out of it.
Yeah, and I get that.
So I can't have a boiler fail in 3 years and say, oh shoot, we should have put one in there. You know, so it's, sure there's some things that might last a little longer, but if I can't spend money from 5 years from now, we can't cut it out.
yeah, the clarifier equipment, for example, is a good one. That's $250,000 probably, and so you could cut that out. You can still function on most of your clarifier equipment, but you should start planning for it being replaced within 5 years anyway.
So it's, I mean, we can go down that road, but it's your guys'
Well, in 5 years, the
Opinions.
money's gonna cost more to. be
Right,
able to
everything is
replace
gonna
it.
go up in cost,
Yeah.
and, I mean, we have to remember too, a lot of the equipment is 40+ years old already, so.
Yeah, so what's in this upgrade is largely a blanket upgrade, a lot of it's getting changed out, but that's with the understanding that it's gonna last for another,
Well, and by doing that though, we should be, like they're saying, we should be able to reduce your DNR equipment
Right.
fund.
a lot of things like that.
Then we should be able to use some of that to pay for some of
Yes.
this.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's not even that we're reducing the fund, we're just reducing how much you're putting into it, because you have such a good pot right there right now, it's gonna stay at that 1.2 million unless you have to replace stuff.
Yeah.
But you have that 1.2 million, you can replace a lift station pump, you can replace a, you know, if something fails, you have that money there. I mean, granted, you'll have to pay for the labor, but, you know, majority of your cost is gonna be that equipment, so.
And it's so many of these things, like once you start looking at cutting, it's, well, where did, it all works together.
Mhm.
So you cut one thing and then, well, this doesn't make sense anymore. So it helps that we're doing more things because like when we update our control system, our SCADA system, you don't wanna put half of it new and half of it old,
No,
because
you
it's
don't
just
wanna
not
do
gonna work
that,
together.
that's a mess.
So it,
That's
a
ugly.
lot of it just adds up to just spend
I've
money
worked on
and make
stuff
it
like
right.
that. I've
Like
worked
the
on
bullet
stuff
and
like
the
that,
rail.
it's, you,
Right.
You don't wanna
And I mean, the
cobble
thing
it
is too,
together.
is once the project's done and all the costs have come in, you can relook at your rates and say, hey, we overshot,
I'd rather.
and we can lower our rates, or we need more money and, you know, whatever, but that's just good and healthy to do, you should be doing that anyway, but, you know, that,
At this
when
point, I
that-
think I'd rather overshoot than undershoot.
exactly, that's kind of
I'd
where we're
rather-
at too.
Rather than that, go and
Right.
say, oh, we go, we're undershot, we gotta go every,
We gotta
make
hit you
another
again.
increase again, and then
Yeah.
more people mad.
Right.
We're only mad at us once.
I mean, from my point of view, the only thing that makes sense is just I hate fixed fees. So we can shift a little more towards usage fees, it makes sense to me at least, because then they're paying for what they're getting.
The hard thing
But
is though,
it's
is that you have that
uncalculated.
annual payment that's due every year, that's a fixed cost to you guys.
Okay.
So that's why we do encourage more, or, you know, we encourage that fixed rate to kind
Some
of,
people try to save water because water costs too much.
exactly. And so you wanna make sure you
Yeah, we
have
wouldn't have
money.
enough money to pay.
Right. and
Yeah.
It was like how did you guys redid the sensing rates, right? We
Mhm.
moved more into fixed.
Yeah, a lot more to your fixed, because.
So before I
Yep,
go,
yep.
sensing agreement, I think we got a path there. You guys know the bid results, the rate stuff, I think we can still work out.
Mhm.
But, so you kind of know the high range of the rates, right? 75, 76-ish. And we can shave off $3, $4, you know, hopefully with equipment replacement fund stuff. You guys know the deadlines now. The last thing that you don't necessarily have to act on is the notice of award. You could not sign, but you could agree to the notice of award contingent upon Sensient coming to the table or something like that.
So that way if they come next week and
Then
say.
Max signs it and we're
Yeah.
off to the run, off running.
Right.
Or is it easier just to make a quorum when that happens?
Yeah, or you have
Have
special
another
meeting or
meeting.
something like that.
You can do either.
It's up to you guys. We don't need a special meeting for the rates as of now.
As of right now, right, that I'm, right.
The only reason why we would need a special meeting for the rates is if we have a closing deadline, you have to get the rates in place. You'd have to have a meeting to,
So you're looking at the rates would have to go in at our next meeting?
Yep.
Yeah, you guys would approve them at the next meeting, and then they would start April 1st, or right, is that when you guys build the first? Yeah.
So,
so you could, we'll know more about Sensient at that time.
Yeah.
Well, and I think it might be good to, I don't know, put a note or something in there that the rates are gonna go up and people are gonna
Oh,
probably be shocked or whatever, and
Well,
then
it's kind of,
Yeah.
warn them that their rates are gonna go
I
up
don't know.
because of what's going
should
on.
we get anything in there
Well,
It can
in
go out in
the
the
present bills?
It can go out in the March bill.
I
that
was
would
gonna
be
say, it can go in the
effective
March
April.
bill.
The-
Warn them that
Are you
in
gonna
April,
get any-
that's gonna probably go up
Right, you
considerably.
warn them, are you gonna get any angry customers at the
Oh.
meeting? That
Well,
meeting,
but
that's what's the.
that's
goal.
what the meeting's for.
And I can probably guarantee that they will not come until after their bills come.
Yeah, 'cause some people don't read the bill, they don't look at their bill, they just look at the amount and pay it.
Yeah, it's once they see that amount, that they,
Then they'll
that's when
pay
you'll
us.
hear from
But
them.
at least we put a piece of paper in there saying
Right, you're trying,
that we are warning them that's, I think that we need to do that.
Yeah.
That, and, that,
Appendix A and B, if you can get me
We'll
those.
get those,
he's-
yep,
yep.
right away, yep.
I mean, C we got, right?
I don't know what it
Isn't
was.
that the flows and,
That was, C might actually be right in,
Oh, already in there.
yeah. There's
Yeah.
somewhere where we
Yeah.
list their flows and loads, like,
Oh, I
as
know.
part of the design, so.
okay,
All right,
All right.
thanks, everybody.
thank you.
Thanks, man.
Thanks, Matt. Thank you. So we can put a notice in the March bill if you'd like for, that there's gonna be a sewer increase, or a sewer rate increase.
I'll just wait till after we get it. Next month.
Well, if we
Well,
put it,
right,
if
that wouldn't be until.
we wouldn't put the rates in, but we just.
we're just
warn
warning
that
them that they're gonna, that the
rates
rates
will
are
be
gonna
going up.
increase. We just don't,
We don't know, we don't know at this time when we put the bills out that what they will be for sure. They go in
we're
there
just warning people a month in advance that their bill is gonna go up instead of just sending them a bill with it to where it went up. Unless you just wanna send them the bill that it went up and not send them any notice that it's going up.
Probably send
Maybe.
I would probably send Bill a notice with the,
With the actual
With the
bill
bill.
increase.
yeah.
An
With
explanation
an
with the bill.
explanation.
Yeah. And I might have
A warning.
an estimate for you too. of what
Well,
it is.
Well, it's just something there, I mean, I'm just saying, I mean,
When do you send them out?
I probably wouldn't
They
read it,
send
but
them-
I'm just saying, I mean,
We have to have any notices have to be
Well, I'm
posted
certain
ahead of time.
that the Facebook.
So you're gonna
If
send
you
it with
want
your
a
March
separate
one?
page,
You're
yeah.
gonna send it in March, okay.
No, we go with, they're saying that we go with the April bill. Because the April bill,
There you
if we're not billing, if we're changing the rates.
That's what I do from 9 until midnight, it's just across the
The
you,
bill
yeah.
won't be mailed to me.
Oh, the,
May.
make a
The
big
This is for the-
Facebook
next
account.
red line
So if we're
contract.
increasing on April
Might be
usage.
one
Oh,
of
you
those
don't
out
have
there.
one
Instead of
now?
a local
Yeah. From our copy we're sending?
Yes,
Okay.
could you do that?
Yep. We'll do that, as soon as we get it all put together.
We'll do what?
The next contract we're sending the Sensians, they would like a copy of it when it's,
I can put it
When
on
you
to you guys.
yeah,
With the red lines or whatever also, so.
well, and with ours.
Well,
I can
we're
highlight,
actually throwing
I
more
can
stuff
highlight
back
the
in.
changes.
But yeah,
Yeah.
I'll highlight the changes so you notice them.
yeah, somehow, yeah, I'd appreciate it.
Makes sense.
Okay,
Do you have any other questions? or
anybody have any questions? Nicole? If not,
Crunch time.
Okay,
you can head out.
all right,
Have a safe trip.
thank you.
All right. We don't have, we've done all the, under public appearances. So we go to monthly business.
Hold on one second, if you don't mind. I'm just making sure I've got everybody covered with what they want. Okay. I have to do this.
All right. Monthly bills, I guess we're looking at. Approve the Meyer month vouchers and approve the vouchers and the checks.
second.
Motion by Ross, second by Bart to approve the vouchers and the checks. Any questions on any of it? If not, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion is carried. Prior month income statement.
Sure, but I've got first, not one about this one.
There was about 17,000 of outstanding balances through Irby because their invoices weren't getting through to us. So I don't know if you guys saw that in account payables, there's about 17,000 to Stuart Irby. That was because their system stopped doing mailings of invoices, and so we paid.
We weren't signed up for email. They
So
were
there's
mailing them and they
$17,000
stopped
worth
delivering.
of invoices that we paid all at once that were throughout the year, so.
Since August, I think it was.
And with long lead times, Lori didn't catch it because
Yeah.
she didn't know they weren't coming in, and so it's all taken care of.
Yeah, when I opened POs for 6 or 8 months, it's like, I didn't get an invoice for that one for last month, so no big deal.
Right.
Won't come for
Okay.
another 4 or 5 months.
Anything on the income statements anybody have any questions about? If not, council acts affecting utilities, if I remember correctly. Resolution 56, 2022. City of Juneau and the Juneau Utility supporting the Pelican Path. Resolution 57, 2022.
We didn't take action on that one.
Okay,
And that's why you guys see the amendment.
okay.
Under my,
Consumption and loss.
Here it is.
Any questions or anything on that? The delinquent account list. It's going up. Pam told me there's
180, I think it was.
180 that would be
On the
on the
disconnect
list. On the disconnect list, she told me that there was 130 the last time I talked to her. So that one,
Yeah, she just sent them out on Friday for this past month, and it
So-
was like 180.
but she said some of the people have come in and paid, and they paid it with cash too. I mean, I don't know.
Yeah, last week we had a bunch of cash come in.
Yeah,
Some of them
cash
were
payments.
getting their cash from, but
Which is nice, we could use more. All right, if nobody has any questions on any of that? If not, utility accountant.
okay, we got a letter from St. Vincent de Paul thanking us for the $900 donation to the food pantry. We had invoiced Charter for their past due invoice that they weren't paying on the boring and whatever for East Oak, was it?
Highland Street.
Highland Street. But they took almost a year to pay that invoice, and so we billed them the interest of about $5,800, and they did pay that. Got that check a couple weeks ago. And then I just wanted to verify that everybody's getting their emails with the meeting packet. I'm sending those out on Friday afternoon before the meeting. And then, did you want me to continue actually mailing the agenda, or is emailing those okay? Because I mail them, and then, like, I don't know, with our mail, if you can get it before you get the packet on Friday with the agenda and the packet, so I just thought I could save some postage.
there-
Postage went up to 60 cents,
I
so.
always thought there was a requirement that had to be done in the mail.
Used to be.
I don't know if it's still that
Might be a
requirement, is
requirement,
still
you
that.
have to do it in the mail, so.
I don't believe so, because we have record by email that we have a date stamp on the email. I'll double check that though.
Otherwise, I have
Yeah,
no
I'm
problem
good
with it.
I'm good with the email.
Okay. Okay,
It'd be nice with the email if you could send all this information also, so
I do.
I don't see like the income statement and all that.
That's the meeting packet I send on Friday afternoons. I email them up.
I just get the agenda.
Hmm.
This time I got the agenda and, that contract was a separate Word document.
Does
Yeah,
usually
looks
that
like
with two
11
attachments.
pages.
Yep.
Okay,
But
I'm not
if
sure
you're
why.
sending it out, I'll double check it.
Okay, yeah, because everybody,
I'll take
I
your word for it.
I do
It's
everybody
all-
in one.
It's all there.
Yeah. So if it's all, yeah, because everybody's on. the
Okay,
same
never
page.
mind.
So never mind, you're gone.
Well, if you're gonna check, and if you're
I'll
not getting
deliver-
it,
I'll
then
You had to
deliver one to
scroll
your
down
house.
further.
Yeah, maybe I just gotta push it all. Whatever.
okay.
Okay, I guess I didn't have anything else to go over. We did, I was gonna mention about sending the email to Andy, the attorney, but he responded at the last minute today, so that was the copy of the email you got.
Well, the lawyer fees to pay again. Okay, is
Yep.
that all? Anybody have any questions for Lori? Nick, electric superintendent.
Yeah, first item, the amended item, review, discuss, and approve electrical line worker reimbursement agreement. I had the lawyer take a look at it, and he didn't want any changes to be made with it. He said that everything looked good. And it was, from my understanding, you guys brought it to common council, didn't know kind of what direction to go with it, so we brought it back to here just to follow the normal avenues that we typically do.
I think you guys talked about it at personnel committee, joint personnel committee.
Yeah.
Yeah, we did
Yeah.
originally.
Yeah,
We had, there was.
and then I thought we talked about it at our last meeting here.
We did.
We did.
But we had to bring it forward to this meeting
Yeah,
to have it approved by
By the
the
attorney.
full commission.
I don't,
It
we
was
didn't do it at joint personnel this last.
It was
the last
requested
month.
that it was
We did it.
reviewed by the attorney.
I thought we did it at one of the joint,
I
no,
saw
we
it-
didn't do, we did it at our
Our
personnel.
We
Yeah.
didn't do it at joint personnel.
But we discussed that we would just bring it forward to the commission.
So we just need to vote on it again?
Yeah, just, yep, basically.
Well, I motion that we accept the, wherever it is, the,
Line worker
Electric line where
reimbursement.
reimbursement agreement.
yeah. I make the motion to approve that or whatever we, and then I don't know, do we send it back to,
Does it,
do we have to send that to
I don't think it does.
common
No.
council, or we just do it here?
I think it's a utility thing.
All right. I made the motion then.
motion, motion by Bart and second by Dick to approve the, where are they? Electric line wear reimbursement agreement. Is there any discussion? If not, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion is carried.
219 North Main Street, installed some solar panels. After the completion of a solar panel, they have to follow guidelines that we set forth with equipment and their connections made. And with that, we do an anti-aliasing test, which means that we do run a test. We turn the power off to the house and make sure that there's no backfeed coming back from the solar panels. There's an inverter with a sensor that senses the loss of AC voltage. It doesn't produce DC voltage back into the banks and produce it back on the line. After they completed the project, we went out there to do the test, but there wasn't enough sun to complete it because you need about 20%, 10 to 20% of production from the panels to do the test. So we're going to try to get in there this week. We have to have the homeowners home to allow us to shut the power off. But I did leave a voicemail. If we can't make contact with them, I did require them to put the cold break on the outside so we can make that outage. They just need to be okay with it. So once we get that set up, we'll do that, and they'll be fully approved for their solar panels. Charter Communication had a contractor come in, they're installing the new pipe on East Oak to the dead end. We've been up there a few times locating and working with them to make sure that they're not wrecking they got all the new grading done, and so they're making sure that they're boring the roads, boring as much as they can. That way they're not disturbing their already compacted gravel and sidewalks that Soper installed.
They gotta be saving big money.
Yeah, no,
What a
they're
joke.
they gotta be biting themselves in the rear end for not going with us. They're definitely costing money, especially doing it this time of year. You gotta do
Well, they called the locating and they just got 4 inches of snow.
it. Right.
And like you said, they're disturbing everything along the route there.
Absolutely. Their route is in the boulevard yet. Basically, the front edge of the sidewalk is the route that they're taking parallel with between electric and gas. So yeah, they got the main installed and all their PEDs. They're just working on their laterals now. And they were given the notice, I've mentioned it before to you guys, that deadline is end of April for them to have completion, otherwise poles are coming down. And if their stuff's on it, then it just gets cut down. We're tree trimming out on the Goose Trail right now by the sample station. We did some checks on our reclosers. Our operations counters have been high on that circuit, and we're thinking there's so many dead ash trees along that hillside. You guys probably have been seeing us clearing that out. That branches are hitting the west phase and just doing a momentary blink that we probably aren't seeing, and you guys aren't communicating to us because you're probably not seeing it either. So we're taking care of that right now. It's pretty extensive clearing there. We took down a capacitor bank by Sensient that I mentioned last month. That's a 300 kVAR capacitor, which we don't have in stock. Those capacitors used to cost $1,500. They cost $9,800 now. Unfortunately, we most likely will. I'm looking into sizing those capacitors because I believe they were just put up because it's an older style capacitors, and I think they were just laying around the shop here when they were first installed. So I don't think there's a rhyme or reason of what size they put up. So I'm looking into figuring out what kVAR capacitors we need to see if we can put smaller capacitor banks up there to cut costs. The downtown substation is the substations that do need the capacitors because the power factor is like 0.94, where other substations are 1.3, and that offsets the power factor on the circuit. So if we might remove capacitors from the other circuits and then put them here and hope that costs drop down. I haven't really made a determination on that quite yet, but we're looking into it.
If I remember right, Forrester designed all that with a fuse coordination study.
They did, but the sizing wasn't followed to a T. I talked to Ed. Ed said that they put a bunch of out that were here in the shop that were never put out, so they put them out. So I'm just trying to figure out the coordination and where.
We used to have a bank up there on North Main Street that was never utilized, wasn't it?
The one by the old doctor office?
Yeah.
There's one there now yet.
Is it in service?
Yeah, it's in service.
I thought the fuses were put on the thing. But
No, one was hanging for a while because they're so hard to get them. 'Cause they don't produce them like they do transformers. But so I'm looking into solutions for that. Submitted the preventative maintenance report to the PSC. It was accepted. Attended the MUW Superintendent Conference. One thing that stuck out to me at that conference was the Open Point software that's becoming available for municipalities. It basically ties all of our accounting software, our AMI metering, our websites. It ties them together for work orders, inventories, messaging, customers for outages instead of using 100% Facebook for communicating that. So it's basically the next step as far as technology. We're doing a consultation after audit time just to see what costs are gonna be and to see if it's, we can do maybe just parts of it and not do full scale depending on what our wants are, so we're gonna be looking into that.
Did you mention inventory?
Yep. Right now, we're still finalizing inventory because of those Irby invoices that came through late. Basically just making sure everything's pairing up before audit, and also preparing for making sure if inventory is going to get to us in time for these projects that are set in 2023 that are ordered back in February and March of 2022. At that conference, they talked a lot about supply chain and the bottlenecking that's going on, and it's not going to get better. They're anticipating 5 years, if not more. So it's going to be a struggle, but we might be looking at purchasing stuff for 2024 now, and challenging myself and you guys to make decisions to approve budgets for specific things like transformer purchases for 2024, that we purchase them now, wire purchases for 2024, so on and so forth, so that we just get them placed. That money's not coming out till 2024, but we're gonna have to be stretching out our budget projections to multiple years. And finally, we hired Nick Cook for the apprentice position. He starts Monday, and it was a close running between two of the individuals. It could have went both ways between the two. We worked with Nick Cook before, so we know his personality and his work ethic. I think he's going to work out really well here, and we look forward to him starting.
Okay, anybody have any questions for Nick? If not, Alex?
Well, while last month was not as busy, this month I have other things, so quite a bit more to cover. I guess just kind of made a packet to go through.
What?
You want a packet?
Oh, if you got one, I don't care.
Sure.
There's an extra.
She's freezing to death here.
I am. Cold.
Hold on.
Can I get one? No.
Well, either it's yours or Peggy's.
Here, you can have it.
Or
Okay.
Peggy's.
I'm just gonna need it for notes.
No, that's fine. Take it.
Alright, thanks.
So, first page you'll see is a letter that Matt had received on, from the DNR, basically stating that they issued our water utility a new permit for wastewater, but it's a permit for the water utility to be discharging chlorinated drinking water to the surface water, storm sewers, ditches, etc. So this is a letter we received in July of 2021 stating that we were going to need to start meeting these deadlines, or these limits, as of 8/1 of 21. I remember reading this letter and thinking, we need to do something about this, but then the leadership at the time didn't take it anywhere. So, from that, I did have to submit to the DNR that we did not follow this practice for the last year and a half, and so we will certainly be receiving some sort of judgment based on the fact that we weren't doing it. So, backside of the first page says we're limited to 19 micrograms per liter. We do not have the equipment to measure that low. So the only option we have is to implement best management practices, which is essentially the next pamphlet I have, or page, a aluminum hydrant dechlorination diffuser. We will need to purchase this equipment to meet that limit. That's just the equipment. There's a number of other things, chemicals and so on and so forth that go with it. So I know it's within my realm of just purchasing it, but I wanted to use funds from, I'm hoping to use leftover funds from a capital expense item and repurpose them to purchase this equipment for the sum of roughly $2,500. So I don't know if I need approval to change capital expenditures to use on this item.
And which one was it that you're gonna take that out of?
Because we had extra money in the iron filter inspection fund was budgeted for 10,800, and we just signed an invoice for 4,000 on that. So I should have more than the $2,500 left in that account. So I'm assuming, I don't know, I need approval of it? No? To take that money from there and use it for this?
Never seen it unless you get one requested, but
I don't,
I don't have a problem. You talked to me about this. And
yeah. So no, I will go ahead and do that. Next item, we had, well, I guess it's basically the same reason I put it on the agenda. We had Verona Safety come through and inspect all of our confined space equipment. They failed some of our rescue harness, or rescue winches. And we tried to get a hold of the original company to do maintenance on it, and we couldn't get a hold of them. So, because they're so old, it's looking like it's the best option is just to replace it. This is a completely base model tripod system, a lot cheaper, frankly, than most stuff you'd find online. So, because we don't do a lot of confined space stuff anymore, we have to have it, but it's bare bones equipment that we have to purchase, which we would also be trying to take money from another line item capital expenditure that we won't be doing, which was for replacing valves at the wastewater treatment plant that we won't be doing anymore. So we'll take money from there to purchase this equipment.
And that was, we had that budgeted at 3360.
Yeah.
So we got extra coverage there.
The limit is,
I think it's $5,000. I think it was fine, but I wasn't sure if, because we had to reallocate capital expenditures, if I had to run it through here or not.
well, it's nice to let us know.
Right. So, we'll be purchasing that. So that's it for that packet for now. My next item was, well, I did ask, are we gonna do anything with Sensient's flow? Are we shutting it off? Are we making a deadline for them? Tabling it for now.
I guess technically what we're going to do is table it for now until we get another copy to send to
Yeah.
them. And we'll
Give them a deadline to respond to it,
Yeah.
and if they don't respond, then we'll have to talk about what we're gonna do.
Okay. So, then I'll move into my project update, which we'll do chronologically, but definitely not in order of importance. The 9th of January, we got notice that the hummingbird place had spilled 200 gallons of hummingbird nectar. Our influent VOD had doubled that day, but our effluent did not change, so we did handle it, thankfully. The last time that happened, we didn't, so that was good to know. 17th through 26th, you've probably seen Northern Pipe in town doing sewers. They had seen overall that they were in good condition and nothing too dirty. They did find a short section at the east end of Center Street that appears to be used a different material for the sewer. It said the majority of Center Street was a green sewer pipe. As they got to the east end of it, it was a white pipe, and it was slightly out of round and starting to appear like it was squishing. So
Just
just
white would be Schedule 40, the green
Right.
would be Schedule 35.
right. So I don't. That's just what I was told.
But the Schedule 40 is a heavier wall than the
Right.
35, so that.
Right. So I don't know the logic behind it. That's just one thing they noticed is that there was a section towards the end that was.
Ran out of pipe.
It was only the last couple hundred feet, not a lot, but
Up the hill,
yeah, at the top of the hill. So that was one thing they ran into.
somebody's stopping there.
The east end of it?
Yeah.
Said east end.
That's the east end,
Oh,
there.
that's the east
The east end,
end.
yeah.
Oh, yeah, no, not up,
West would be by the courthouse.
yeah. So that's one thing they had noted, due to an error in budgeting last year for cleaning sewers, we had a little bit of extra money. So I told them they could go ahead and televise laterals that had appeared to be leaking. So they did televise 18 laterals, just to, so we could try and start a program towards cleaning up our I&I program in town here. Whether or not, you know, whatever they come back with us, which I haven't gotten a report yet, but what they come back with us for a recommendation, I can take you guys whatever action you wanna take, if any, or if we just wanna start collecting this data, that's just fine too. So we did televise 18 private laterals. And then
What were their locations?
there was a number of them near the corner of Center and Main. So what would be east of Main along Center, on the north side, those those apartments there, I think the county building there, and a few houses along there. So a number of them along Center they did. Then there was just sporadic around the whole northeast section where they were doing work.
Were there any suspect that you picked those, or?
So they have a criteria basically, because it's winter, there's not a ton of active leaks, but I guess one thing they had told me was if you'll see iron staining in the sewer, because our drinking water is iron filtered, you won't get that iron oxidizing on the pipe. So if they see iron staining on the pipe, they'll say, well, it's probably groundwater. Right, so then they went and followed that. A number of them they found roots getting in, which as much of a hindrance as it is for the sewer working, they said if roots can get in, water can get in too. So that was one thing. I guess a couple of them that they told me they found when I checked in on them. But that was, I guess I'll have more information when he submits to me what he found.
Do we actually have to pass a city ordinance to be able to enforce that then?
So we do have
You need a copy.
Yep, city ordinance for control of, well, I don't know if this is the right category even. Control of industrial waste directed to public sewers.
I don't think we got anything on the books that
Oh, this is the wrong thing.
would give us any bite in the bark.
This is Greece. This was a different piece
That's
of
what that
paper.
one meeting was about.
Right.
We had.
Right, to put in a ordinance in place to say you need to maintain it. There was something.
I did print you
So
something.
I know you printed something for me and I didn't bring the right thing. So there's something in our ordinances saying that you, the discharge of, clear water to get from sump pumps, so on, is not allowed.
Right.
But we don't have any, I don't believe, any,
Nothing to enforce
To
that
enforce
they
it.
have to replace it
On
if
the
it is
private
leaking.
side.
Correct.
right. So, how far we go with it, I guess, is that.
Well, it's a good start. I guess it's, be interesting. I'd like to see those results or share it with the
Right,
commission
what they
here on
found.
where and what locations. and-
Right.
I would
Yeah.
just log that stuff so when that ordinance is
Well,
passed.
and that's it, so
Right.
we can keep at this, and we can change the way we go about it in the future, but I just figured at a minimum, televise the ones that look like they're actively leaking. So if we wanna keep doing that in the future, to say, hey, if you come across them where they look like they're leaking, go ahead and televise them while you're there. But it was on like $130 per lateral to do, so. We did 18, which was what they came across. I don't know if you wanna pay to do the whole city while they're at it, but if we can keep doing it at evidence-based, it's kinda up to you guys.
Well, like that Joe G. Young said from MSA, if it's a clay lateral, it's an automatic fail.
Right.
you
So
know?
then that's where you're bringing in the enforcement side of it, that's.
Right, but you gotta have something in black and white to be able to
Right.
do that.
What we could do too is maybe talk to Adam, because they do jetting and televising for so many communities, find out if he knows of a community that does have an ordinance in place and how it's stated, that if it is leaking, what what the utility requires the customer to do, you know, lateral based. If they have a leak, we could see if he knows of a community that has something specifically written, and maybe we can,
Copy
you
it.
know, get a copy of it and, you know, modify it to what we'd like it to read or whatever, you know what I'm saying?
Now, are they just checking the Y connections with this television, or are they
They're
actually,
going up the
they're
laterals.
actually going up the lateral?
Mhm.
Yep. So like, I don't know, if even we get to a point where, say they find roots halfway up, if we can mandate they just do spot repairs, or I don't know where you wanna go with it.
You
But-
gotta get in there, you better do it, you
Sky's
know, just
the
like
limit.
we do with water laterals, you know,
Right.
you hammer out some floor and
Right.
inside
That's
the
the right
house
way.
and, you know, get appropriate clean out in there, you know, 'cause a lot of them don't have appropriate clean outs, and, you know, but, you know,
Right.
clay, cast iron, you name it, it's all,
I think one thought to have is, you know, if the utility commission is gonna enforce the lateral replacements, if it is a clay, it doesn't, to me, it doesn't pay to inspect it, because they're gonna be bypassing the
Right.
non-suspect laterals, and then you're not confirming if it's clay
Yeah.
or not,
yeah.
and then you're gonna have to come back again.
So I would have to ask if there's an easier or cheaper way for them to say, is it clay? You know,
Right.
can you do it for $20 just to tell me which ones are clay?
Right.
You
Yeah.
know, that would be beneficial.
Yeah, they can do, if they check, I mean, if you're there doing the road and they check the laterals, I
Just
mean,
look
yeah,
and see
that's
what it
great.
is. Yeah,
But if they're just doing the ones that they actively see the,
right, the issues, then I don't know. Well, and that's the hard part is, most of the streets have been rebuilt
Right.
since it was built, so what they're seeing is the new tie-in. You know,
Well,
they have to go a
I would
little ways to
imagine-
find the original pipe.
The ones that
Yeah.
comes to my mind right now, when Tim Gassner was sitting in your seat, when we did Depot Street half a dozen years ago, he said we had huge infiltration from the west on Oak Street.
Okay.
You know, that only goes up as far as Fair Street.
Right.
So, you know, that kind of baffles me there. That means
Well,
there must be, you know, besides the main, there must be of
One
leaking
thing
laterals too, you know. and-
Really concerned with is lift station 1, when it rains, it runs. So that whole northwest side of town, when it rains, that area is very problematic. So that's one for sure that I would have interest in, and definitely looking at sooner than later. But
Yeah, North Main, you would think with being as high as what they are, that groundwater would find a path to the backyards or whatever there. But, and when you get down on Cottonwood and, you know, all of that is
That one up
fairly
there, too.
new construction too,
north of
so.
26. Yeah. So, to move on,
Thank you.
on January 20th, both 2U and 3U trucks got new tires at Tirific. They also got TPMS sensors because they were starting to fail. On January 23rd and 24th, Municipal Well was here to do iron filter inspections, which was a budgeted item. They found that well 2 was in good condition. Well 1, we found that the air release valve was not working, and the air intake check valve was also not working, so we replaced those minor items, but probably be a few $100s. And then they found at well 3 that 2 of the 4 cells had, the media was disturbed, and they had noticed some channeling. So that would indicate to us that there is something going wrong with it. The performance has not been affected thus far, other than finding media within our discharge water, from our backwash discharge water. But our sales rep is gonna kinda dig into it a little more and kinda give us some recommendations, whether or not we should be proactive and put some repair or maintenance into it ahead of time, or if we just wait for it to fail, I guess is kinda up to what they think. So we're gonna wait and see what he comes up with for that. Next packet that we got, that I had in your handout, was our corrosion control study. We did submit that January 31st to the DNR. I had only printed a very short portion of it. I do have the full copy if you're interested in reading it. I highlighted the portion that states we are going to be, it is recommended that we install a system to feed orthophosphate chemical to reduce corrosion within our water system. So we submitted that report the 31st. The DNR has however long they want to review it and agree to it or disagree to it. So once, if they agree to it, we have 2 years to implement this solution. So the issue there is either we have to add chemical, and that involves all the extra chemical pumps, scales, things that go with it, or we have to get rid of the remainder of our lead well before 2 years from now. So, you know, if we can get rid of the last of our lead next year or early the following year, we won't have to add this extra chemical. But if it's not looking like we'll get that done, we will. And if we're not going to have that done, that'll come with a lot of extra sampling, and the DNR is not necessarily sure if once we do, so say we are behind the game and we don't get it out, say we do get it out, they're not certain how they're going to handle if we can stop feeding this chemical or not, and what's the advantage at this point, because you already bought all the equipment to feed it anyway. So I guess my recommendation in the long run is try really hard to get those last streets done on Oak Street. Otherwise, all the chemical feed equipment's going to be considerable expense.
How many are left?
It's just 2 blocks of Oak Street, isn't it?
2 blocks of Oak Street, 1 further left off the main on the 3rd block. There we can just strip crop that, and it looks like we're very probable going to receive that CDBG money for the 2 blocks. We haven't got an official word of it yet, but it sounds very positive. That doesn't help the utility, but
Up to 1850s? That's actually what you're saying?
yeah, and then the remaining stuff west of that thing, we're just gonna have to make a concerted effort to either do that and then resurface the whole street or whatever. Or
Is there any idea to do like we did with last year, how we did it piecemeal, just to get it done?
that could
Is
be,
that a terrible idea?
no, not
Just
at all.
lay the
I'm,
main in and
yep,
do the public side, and
do the private side at the
you know,
same time.
I know we spent $30,000 on it to do those 6 or whatever it was.
Does that include the patching?
No, for the Oak Street, what we paid Town and Country.
Oh, patching was a lot more.
Oh, yeah,
And
that's,
then,
yeah.
so Town and Country was like 30 grand, right?
I think what we should do when we get to the bidding
Yeah.
portions of those two blocks is to include the 3rd block outside the CDBG money, and have a contractor take care of it all at the same time.
Cause that's,
Then we can put a new binder coat of, you know, the Chamber of Commerce has got a $30,000 grant now to do a conceptual redesign of the downtown district, that 1 block. And they've got all kinds of ideas on what they want to do there, but that's just dollars for an engineer to come in and design something. It doesn't put any dollars in anybody's pockets to make them spend the money to do anything, you know, for the storefronts and what have you. But I'm thinking, like I said, we do these 2 blocks.
my
We
hard
put
part
it-
is how
we-
much you pay these engineers for this.
Oh, yeah.
To just go and pay a guy to do it,
Yeah,
put it out for bid yourselves and get it done.
right. But I mean, this could be incorporated in
Right.
with that bid as an add-on and what have you. Because that wouldn't fall under the CDBG money, so they wouldn't have to pay the Bacon Davis labor rate and what have you to do that, but.
But what I think we do if we that was one of the reasons that we did leave it up to the residents for choosing what contractor they wanted to use rather than having just one contractor do them all, is because of the Davis-Bacon wages, because of being reimbursed from the DNR.
Right.
So we would have to still, if we choose, okay, this is the contractor and he's doing them all, we have to do the Davis-Bacon wages.
We'll have to look at
Well,
that.
so
We'll
it
get-
depends on how we're funding it too, though, because this is all private, this is all public side, this is all our property.
But we
We would
MSA has
be getting-
applied for money.
We've got
for
the ones
public
that are
Okay.
done on the private side already. The
Yeah.
ones that we
Yeah.
ripped up last year are on the private side.
Right,
Right,
So this would be just the
Just
public
public
side to
side.
clean up the rest of it.
okay.
yeah.
So
So
we are getting DNR money for that, I believe, from what MSA said and what Peter had explained once, which I.
So yeah, I agree with you, Alex. Let's make a concerted effort. We miss one or two, nobody's gonna know. You know, it'll come to surface after the fact, but I mean,
What
who
are
the
they
hell?
gonna do?
You know, yeah, what are they gonna do?
Go door to
Put a
door?
closed sign in the city limits? Don't let anybody in or
I mean, they're
whatever?
not gonna go around, whatever.
Kinda-
So I can
Well, and at
say,
that point, if you do find another one, I mean, then we'll just do what we gotta do to make sure it gets taken care of, you know what I mean? Like,
Absolutely.
all I have to be able to say is, to the best of my knowledge,
Yep.
that they're gone.
Yep.
So, that's
And I
fine.
think you've done a pretty good job, you know, thus far, keeping them going, but yeah, I thought about that too, we may as well just tackle them all at the same time we do this and do one binder coat from Main Street all the way down to Depot Street. Follow it up
Is
with a
Miller,
fresh coat.
is Miller Street not getting done then?
What do we have on Miller?
I'm just saying about resurfacing it, if we're gonna be,
Oh,
because that's all the old street light in there too. If we're gonna be redoing street lighting, might as well do that one section quick.
yeah, we don't have any water or sewer utilities in there anymore, but,
I just
Thank
didn't-
God,
yeah,
one less expense.
yes,
So that's looking for like 2024 possibly?
24, 25, I guess, but, yeah, we gotta stay on this lead stuff, that's why I pushed to get this. I went door to door and collected all them surveys myself, I mean, because I didn't wanna miss the deadline for getting those surveys in, and I really had a good inkling, and we were like 50% low to moderate income, so we were well over the threshold and what have you, sort of for getting them done, so it looks pretty likely, and I'm hoping there might be some dollars to share with the utility on that one. as
that
well,
would be
so-
for this year then?
this year.
Okay.
It would be another fall project, because they got them deadlines that they have to make and what have you there, and pushes you out till
It's looking like-
summer construction's about over with again, but,
Mid-year of '24, we have to know if we're gonna be done or not,
yep.
so if we're gonna add the chemical or not.
I think we'll do pretty well there, but,
So, next thing in your packet, you'll see the dreaded non-compliance letter that we received, that nobody wants to receive. For that, what happened is, we receive a sampling schedule for our water utility every January. Within that schedule, we also receive sample slips for each sample that we send in. They pre-print for us what we need to send in. A sample for radioactivity for the raw water coming from well 2 was added mid-year. This was added to the schedule, and our DNR rep had given this schedule by hand to who was previously in charge. That addition was never communicated properly or taken care of, basically. So we just did not take the sample when we were supposed to,
Because we weren't aware of it.
because nobody was aware of it other than the previously in charge. So, to make this right, we have bottles coming right now. We will be sampling it as soon as we can, sending it out, and then as soon as we get results back, we will be providing a public notice to the newspaper to say there was a sampling error, all the results are cross your fingers, adequately good, water's safe, and so on and so forth. But that's just the steps we have to take, is take the sample and tell the public, so.
Yeah, the public notification, we looked at, it's actually pretty brief, and we had called, Alex and I had called Sophia to clear up what had actually happened. And after we found out what it was, she said it's really pretty basic to fill it out and just let them know that there was a turnover of employees and miscommunication and the sample wasn't taken, but we have until October to actually do the notification, so like you said, we can do the test, and I mean, all of our radioactivity results have come back really well lately. So as long as we get this one back good and everything is fine, it'll just be a matter of, you know, a basic statement, you know, answering a few questions, letting them know that the sample was missed by accident due to turnover and whatever, and that there's no concern, the samples are safe, so it should be relatively easy.
We're taking care of it. But I don't know if we'll get any, I don't know if that's comes with a fine or anything to that.
That I'm not entirely sure,
We'll
yeah,
see.
she didn't really state anything about that, it didn't sound like there would be, but I don't know.
So, and then the last thing in your packet, I had kind of started looking into, and I just am curious the direction the commission wants to go. If we are interested while we're doing this facility upgrade in having natural gas poured out to the wastewater plant. I got a loose quote, what it would cost to do it. The only reason I would say to do it is because we're replacing literally everything that burns gas now. So if there's ever a time to do it, now is the time to do it. I had mentioned it to the engineers, and it was pretty much sure if you want kind of thing. It was one of those, you didn't ask us about it, so why would we engineer it kind of things. So if we want to push them to add that to the project, we certainly can. I get that based on the math I kind of came up with, break even's not really there, but there is the reliability and the long-term portion of it. I guess it's kind of up to you guys which way you'd want to go.
That runs down W.
It would have to run down that, yep.
Sad part about that, to get additional customers tied on there is.
There's like 4, yeah. But so this was based off the rate that we get for well 2 here. It sounds like they could probably give us a better rate for gas being an industrial customer, but.
Well, this was $250,000 that he wanted for 10 years ago when I looked into it.
Really?
Yeah.
Well, it's quite a bit lower now.
Yeah, they came down, yeah, they were talking 220,000, just kind of an off-the-cuff figure
Right.
like this.
Same
Of course,
thing.
your well 3 extension
That
was a
was
lot
only-
less here when
yeah,
you
same
inquired
thing.
about it than when I inquired about it a couple of years ago,
Same
so.
thing. So I don't know if they're getting better at boring or plastics
Well,
getting cheaper or
you know,
what,
they-
but-
Well, it probably is bore. I mean, whereas before, it probably was dug.
Open trench.
It was open trench probably
But-
before.
But open trench pricing is still cheaper than board.
Is it?
Yeah.
So, I can,
Only then they're getting better at boring. It doesn't cost as
No,
much.
this would definitely be a move, I mean, you're talking, it used to be a rule of thumb, I don't know how the LP rates are, but usually 10 to 15% cheaper per unit going with
Right.
natural than what it is
right,
going with
well,
LP,
'cause we
so.
get full truckloads, our LP is fairly reasonable.
Yeah.
But, you know, like you have years like this year where more than likely we're gonna have to buy in March.
Yeah.
So we're gonna take a hit pretty bad. So you kind of avoid that if we go this route. But
One of the things I think we'll have to look at too when we do get that filled, because we seem to have gone through it quicker this year than normal, but I kind of feel like when it got filled last time, they didn't completely fill the tank all the way either. So I don't know if they brought a full truckload or if it was conveyed to them what the total volume of our tank was, but I just feel like it should have been fuller than what it was when we got it filled, so.
They'd have
you're on the honor system with your
Yeah.
LP hauler most of the time on that. That's one thing about natural gas, it's metered. It's absolutely metered. It's not that 20% that they leave
Yeah.
for expansion in your tank and everything like that. You're really at the mercy of who you're doing business with.
I'll pay the utility $2,500 if they come down them.
Well,
I don't blame you. There's definitely savings. But there's gotta be some wheeling and dealing that goes on. I know Eugene Voigt didn't pay $125,000 to get.
Right.
There was grant incentives for
There's
corn burners.
Gotta
So-
be, there's
and
gotta
it's-
be.
he said, depending on your usage and so on and so forth, I didn't get to him soon enough.
Who are you dealing with, Perry?
Perry, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and then I think Nate was the one that gave me I don't remember his name, but gave me the numbers. But yeah, Perry said if we can kind of roll this into a project that they were gonna do anyway,
He's a good guy to work with, I will say that much.
yeah. So there's a chance it could get it. These are pretty much worst case scenario numbers, I feel like, that
Well,
we kinda came up with.
Since the
so.
incident at the north end, they were always looking to get us a second feed into
And
Juneau
that's
from
I
the other
asked them
end, but
too, is it any
going out
easier?
there ain't gonna help us, you know. We can swing over to Oak Grove and tap into their little line over there, that would.
On that note though, if we go with natural gas, does that change anything that they've already engineered for the
No.
plant? No?
It's HVAC is all just
Fact,
different.
You're just-
Most of the
you're
time,
just
natural
changing-
gas heaters are less money than LP.
Yeah,
Okay.
because we usually gotta buy a conversion kit for LP.
Right, okay.
So the only thing is,
Why would W rather than direct trail?
I asked that because you said footage is basically the same, and then you add maybe a couple customers, and there is a stub a little further south.
I like the idea of looping over by Nails and tapping onto their natural gas line too, you know.
So do I.
I don't blame you.
That's,
Nick.
I told him the
That's not that
location I
far.
wanted gas. I said, this is where I want gas, he said, that's the cheapest way to do it, so.
Yeah,
That's all
because the
I got.
potential of that $2,500 payback per
So,
customer
and
is
that's,
not gonna be there.
we can, I mean, he was gonna look further into if he can give us better rates because we're using 10,000 gallons LP a year.
That's what I was hoping.
So, that's, I mean, that's was, I said $1.30 a therm, and that's based on our little well house here using gas. So, I'm hoping they can sell it to us cheaper than that. But if I can push further on that and push into the engineers if we wanna go that route. But we're gonna add.
I
it's gonna-
don't see you being able to add that to the upgrade since it's over zero. Because I can see that.
Yeah, that we probably have to somehow do separate, I'm guessing.
Right, just do it. Problem is
It does change some of the
the
things.
the
but-
timeline, it kinda has to get done this year to make it.
I would definitely let them aware of it because the efficiency level on most of the equipment is better on natural than it is on LP too.
Well,
And
I
even
think
convert, now, what are they doing with the generator?
Generator was spec'd for diesel,
Diesel.
so we could switch over to natural gas. on
Lots of
that.
people do diesel, even if
Well-
they have natural gas.
Healthcare facilities have to do diesel because they gotta have a guaranteed source on
Yeah.
site, but,
Right.
The one we
So
have
then-
at work is diesel.
The one, a couple nice features is then we don't have a permanent diesel tank on our property anymore. That needs to be inspected. And then, well, not that it matters if we do decide to go with the garage and the, facility plan as it is, but there's a perimeter around that LP tank to say we can't build anything around it.
right.
So if we were to get rid of it, I don't even want to mention it to you guys, but if we were to ever drop the garage out of our plans, a good place to put a garage would also be back there. Which we couldn't put there if the LP tank's there.
Well, I think are they set on the diesel generator?
Nothing's set. No.
Well, I would certainly think they'd look favorable at having natural gas brought out there and run it off. I just bounce it off of Matt, see what he's got to say. I don't know how they're gonna look at it, but I sure would, if I was calling the shots, I certainly would want natural out there if we could get it.
So, and that's basically all I needed to hear is if I need to push harder into Perry to see more firm numbers, better rates. Push into Matt to see if we can change this over and all those items. That's all I needed to hear.
Go for it.
Like I said, in most cases, you're gonna be saving money on equipment going natural versus LP.
So then, beyond that, February 3rd, Liz and I replaced one of our RA300 pumps due to electrical pump failure.
Those aren't that old.
No,
Those are like,
so that's one of the nice items where we're doing this plant upgrade is it's failing because it's in a poor environment. So I don't know if I should buy a new spare replacement pump because they're $3,000 and we're gonna be buying new ones with the plant upgrade anyway.
The only problem we have though is we still have one that is the same age as the other one, which hasn't been giving us grief, but if it does fail, we don't have a backup, and that means one of our 2 plants on top of the hill would not be getting fed chemical.
How fast, how long does it take to get one?
Well, I can get one, it's just whether or not I wanna spend $3,000 when we're gonna be getting 2 brand
Yeah.
new ones with the plant upgrade anyway.
I mean, you're talking 24-hour turnover or something like that to get one?
In the same sense, could
It's,
you
it's a spare anyway, it's
all
not
set
like
that
a need.
out for spare when you get the other?
Certainly,
Yeah.
yeah. Well, then we'll have 2 good spares. So, we can order one, that's certainly fine. Then on February 5th, we had lift station 4 had a seal failure on pump number 2. So Sabo will be coming this Thursday to pull that and maintain and or replace parts on that.
Well, part of the problem, I think, and Alex and I have discussed this, is there's never been, to the best of our knowledge, preventive maintenance done on any of these lift stations where the pumps were like pulled and impellers checked and seals checked and oils changed. And like when I was in Mayville, our lift stations, we would literally like every year have, you know, pull the pumps, check the oils, check the impellers, check wear rings, all those things. That does not take place here.
Well, and that is, Peter did add that to get done this
To
year.
the budget,
To the
correct.
budget, yeah.
Yeah.
So we're gonna start doing that for sure, but yeah, the only time this pump that failed now was installed in '98 and was only touched in 2014, otherwise it's been in the hole ever since, so. Yeah,
I don't know, you can't complain much about it.
Yeah.
Well, no, I'm just saying though, I
I
mean,
complain
sometimes
much
it's
about
like,
that, I
when
mean,
things like
just
that
can't.
happen, you know, I
Yeah.
mean, sometimes a little preventative maintenance.
Oh,
helps, but-
I
we
agree.
could've seen it coming maybe a little bit.
Right.
Yeah, you might have known it was coming, yeah, if you was, but still, I mean, that's,
I was gonna ask you, we've gotta get these for our fire hoses now when we fight a fire in town so that chlorinated water don't go down the storm drain
That-
when we squirt it.
That's part of this document, says there's special circumstances. Yeah.
And we're training.
We're gonna pray that it's infiltrated into the ground.
Jesus Christ.
All right.
Well, see, the only other way you can avoid that, right, is if you discharge onto customers' lawns or somewhere
Right.
where it can actually soak
The
in.
tripod.
But if you're,
If
if
it
you're
goes in
doing
the
it,
storm sewer at all, you need to
yep,
dechlorate.
then you need to dechlorinate it. But if it goes on a lawn, then you're okay, but then you're probably wrecking somebody's lawn.
Crap, Ross, remember when we had to change all the well rooms to go from discharging in the storm sewer, all the backwash water we used to send in the storm sewer, and then we had to change it to the sanitary sewer.
Yep.
So,
All right.
well, and the chemical cost to go with it too is not free either, so. Sounds like we do need to approve my tripod purchase.
Yep, the tripod purchase, we need to,
There's one right back there, take the camera off of that.
that won't hold anybody. I'll make a motion to purchase the tripod. Need a second?
I'll second.
Ross.
Who wants it?
Ross got it.
Okay.
Hell,
Ross
yeah.
does, Ross seconded. We need, is there any discussion on it? It's confined space entry, it's safety equipment. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion is carried. Is that all you have?
All I have for today.
Okay. I really don't have anything.
Or, not this.
We, at present, so,
Want mine, you can't have it.
Mr. Mayor?
I was just gonna give you the update on that CBDG money, or CDBG money. Sounds like it's a goal, and I think, Megan has talked to you, Lori, about expanding your borrowing to be able to
Yes.
cover that. jointly, we're pretty good shape, so I don't think if we do, the city maybe would borrow maybe like 200,000 or 250,000, but the utility's gonna have to focus in on $1 million borrowing there to cover what you've already spent and
Right.
what you would need to spend to cover the balance of those streets, so.
Yeah, that's 525,000 we were originally looking at, and they're adding around 470.
Gonna have to use at the higher rates.
We're gonna have the rate's gonna have to be higher than we already, than what they were talking
So we can pay for
about.
the bills. I mean, the sewer facility is in the hole, right away.
But realistically, after this, settled down pretty long, from the projection I see as far as new utilities are, right?
Very much.
But, yeah, so we're looking at probably a few more cents on that.
A lot of the futures are just resurfacing this.
Yeah, I mean, you're sitting here now with the monkey on your back, you gotta get this lead out, you know.
Yeah.
Gotta get the lead out, so you know, you're gonna have to do it in the next 2 years, so it really is timely that this did come the way it did, by
Right, get
continuing
it done
on Oak
now.
Street, yeah. It's a expense you don't wanna face, but it's certainly something that's gonna accomplish, or you're gonna be back in the good eyes with the DNR as far as having this all done and what have you. too,
Okay.
so.
And that plan that they're talking about with the design
Yeah.
chambers, the utility will have to get involved for the street lighting then,
Yes,
for
yes.
approval then.
And of course, they love the downtown concept with the music and stuff like that, so you'll be pulling another interduct from A to B, from pole to pole. But then they're talking about potted trees and whatever, so you don't have to mess with that stuff, you know, and people get things in location for decoration. It's all cosmetic stuff.
No, I get it.
There's no two ways about it.
Not against it, I mean,
No, I mean, those marble poles have been around there as long as I've been on the face of this earth, so, you know, they're due to be replaced. There's no two ways about that.
it's all the concrete is breaking off on the bottoms, you know.
All right, so that's all, any old business? Any new business?
What are we starting with bills?
Would anybody like to make a motion to adjourn?
Motion to
Spring.
adjourn.
They're still in the design planning.
Second.
Motion by Bart, second by Dick to adjourn.
I gotta know when I gotta order.
All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion is carried.
I
8:11.
worked on it and then I was on vacation.